Previously on The Strain.
Vampires are not new to television, but in recent times, very few shows have been able to capture the monstrous side of vampires. The Strain is one of these new modern retellings of what vampires are believed to be, a blood-sucking monster that can also put the curse of vampirism on humans. Following the story of a vampire outbreak in the backdrop of New York City, the story follows Dr. Ephraim Goodweather, who unknowingly becomes entangled in the conspiracy of a centuries-old vampire trying to take over the world, and also finds allies in unexpected people. F and his team's efforts can decide the fate of the world, as they stand as a powerful opposition to the ancient creature. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Behind the creation of The Strain. The Strain was created by popular filmmaker Guillermo del Toro, along with author Chuck Hogan. Del Toro had initially pitched The Strain as a television series in 2006, but no deal could be reached after the Fox Broadcasting Company network president asked him to change the tone of the show from horror to comedy. Del Toro's agent gave him the suggestion to expand on the concept in the form of a novel series, following which he asked for Chuck Hogan's help in writing the novel. Hogan came on board to collaborate with Del Toro after reading his 12-page outline, and during their first year, they worked without any contract or publishing deal in sight. The duo released 3 books: The Strain in 2009, The Fall in 2010, and The Night Eternal in 2011. Del Toro and Hogan started getting offers for film and television adaptations following the release of the first book, but declined them in order to not let a screen adaptation influence their writing. After the release of the third and final book, the two authors started to meet with cable networks that showed interest in adapting the books. They chose FX to be the most suitable network for the adaptation to allow the series to have a proper ending within 3 to 5 seasons. Del Toro mentioned the intention of having the first 2 novels covered in 1 season each, with the final novel being split into 2 or 3. FX allowed the writing team to script 10 episodes, even before the series' final episode order was announced, which got rewritten by Del Toro. FX president John Landgraf even mentioned that the series would not have any less or more than 39 to 65 episodes, with the series finally running for 46 episodes, to allow for the show to be the exact length required for the story to be told. Del Toro described the show as being similar to that of his movies, which was to have a stylized reality. FX ordered 13 episodes for the show's first season on November 19, 2013, with The Strain premiering on July 13, 2014. Del Toro wrote the pilot episode with Hogan, as well as directed it, which premiered at the ATX Television Festival in Austin, Texas, in early June 2014. Following the renewal of the show's 3rd season, Del Toro and showrunner Carlton Cuse mentioned having a 5-season plan. The number of episodes decreased from 13 to 10 after the 2nd season, and the 4th season ended up being the final one, due to the team believing that the remaining story could be better told in just 1 more season instead of 2. Exploring the episodes of The Strain. Season 1, Episode 1 of The Strain introduces the event that started the vampire outbreak in New York, when JFK Ground Control lost contact with an inbound jet upon landing at the wrong location. The New York-based Canary Project team under the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, arrived to investigate the situation under the team's heads, Dr. Ephraim F. Goodweather, and Dr. Nora Martinez. F has also been going through a divorce caused by his long working hours and being unable to give time to his wife and son. Upon checking the plane, the CDC team found all the passengers to be dead and also discovered uncanny parasitic worms, along with biological secretions visible under UV light on the plane, believing it to be a plague similar to that of Ebola. They also ended up finding 4 unexpected survivors among the passengers who woke up during the investigation: Ansel Barber, a computer programmer; Joan Luss, a lawyer; Gabriel Bolivar, a musician come rock star; and Captain Doyle Redfern, one of the pilots of the plane. The survivors, though, failed to provide any information about what happened inside the plane. F and Nora were also given the results of the post-mortem, where it was found that the dead bodies of the passengers had a 3-centimeter slit on their necks, at an exact depth that would not allow the carotid artery to burst. This much precision has not been found to be achieved by medical instruments, and no blood has also been found inside the dead bodies, but rather some type of white liquid. Following this, F got a visit from Abraham Satrakian, an elderly pawnbroker from Harlem, who insisted on knowing about the disease and advised F that to stop it, they would have to behead and then burn all the dead bodies. Upon hearing this, F leaves as Abraham gets removed by police, and as Abraham is escorted away, he shouts to not let an elaborately carved coffin filled with soil found inside the plane be moved across the river, which Nora hears and is surprised by his knowledge of their finding. Upon further investigating the plane's cargo hold, F and Nora found the place to be filled with worm-like creatures along with some soil, which F recognized to be the soil from the coffin. Amidst the investigation at the airport, an airport official who was looking after the coffin also got killed by a giant human-like creature who sucked his blood using a throat appendage and then proceeded to smash his head. Also, the medical examiner during the post-mortem, Dr. Bennett, found a heart belonging to one of the dead passengers to be beating along with several worm-like creatures in it. Upon closer inspection, the worms crawled into Bennett's skin, and as he tried to take it out using a surgical instrument, he got surrounded by several of the undead passengers who overwhelmed him and seemingly devoured him. Unbeknownst to F and Nora, their colleague, Jim Kent, had helped to move the coffin by allowing a recently paroled criminal, Augustin Gus Elizalde, to enter the airport and retrieve the coffin. Gus was hired by Toman Eichhorst, an unknown man who has connections with Eldridge Palmer, a powerful and wealthy businessman, who ordered Gus to deliver the coffin to Manhattan before sunrise. Gus was also promised rewards for his help by Thomas, which is a clear criminal record for his brother's criminal record and his mother's immigration status being taken care of. Towards the end, one of the grieving family members of the passengers found her young daughter returning, whom he had believed to have died on the plane. The next episode opens with Gus reaching the destination for his delivery before dawn, but finding nobody there to receive it. He decides to check the coffin, but upon hearing the strange noises coming from the coffin, he gets scared and runs off. F, Nora, and their team arrive to investigate the airport personnel and find a similar biological discharge around the body as they had found on the plane. F also got notified about the survivors asking to be released, but since the CDC has not found the virus causing their symptoms, F tries to stop it. The survivors end up having to be released, and F visits his boss, Dr. Everett Barnes, to convince her about continuing the isolation of the survivors until finding out about its source. Dr. Barnes tells him that the airline company has cited mechanical failure as the reason for the plane's early landing, and also mentioned leakage of carbon monoxide, which was responsible for the deaths of the passengers, as a last resort to save their stock prices. F scolds his boss upon hearing this, and in turn, gets forced to take a leave of absence, resulting in his being taken off the case. He also finds his ex-wife's boyfriend to have moved into the house along with his son. As a result, F decides to dedicate his time to conducting research on the virus in secret. Meanwhile, Abraham has been jailed following his removal from the airport due to his cane having a sword inside of it and getting a visit from Thomas. Acknowledging their years-long rivalry, Abraham notes how Thomas looks the same even after years, and then vows to kill Thomas along with his master. Joan, one of the survivors, files a lawsuit against the airline, while another survivor, Gabriel, notices his hair falling out when a girl pulls out a lot of strands from his head and later starts craving blood, leading to biting a girl's neck. F contacts another one of the survivors, Captain Redfern, who, upon feeling guilty about the deaths of the 206 passengers, agrees to help F. F gets Redfern admitted to a hospital for examination, during which he finds a slit on Redfern's neck similar to the other bodies, along with several worms crawling under his skin when checked under UV light. When F tries to contact Dr. Bennett about it, he gets no response and decides to check with the autopsy department. On his way, while driving, F gets a shocking call from the father, whose young daughter, also a plane victim, returned home and thanked him for it. But before F could respond, the call got cut. Upon reaching the department, F and Nora found the place to be empty, and Dr. Bennett was missing alongside the dead bodies of the passengers. Back at the home of the father who contacted F, he enters the bathroom to bathe his daughter, as he notices a clump of hair coming out of his daughter's head, then gets attacked by his daughter, who now possesses the throat appendage, and ends up killing him. The third episode opens with Thomas sitting in front of the mirror, revealing his status as a vampire with pale skin and a lack of a nose and hair. He covers up his identity using prosthetic makeup along with fake teeth and hair. Thomas visits F's colleague, Jim, at the Stoneheart Group and gives him his promised payment for his help in delivering the coffin. Jim declines the money rather than asking what was actually inside the coffin, along with threatening Thomas about going to the police. Thomas reminded Jim of his terminally ill wife and promised that in exchange for his continuing help, his wife would be admitted into a clinical trial program for cancer treatment that could help her. Jim ends up agreeing to continue to help Thomas for the sake of his wife. Nora manages to find Abraham after he gets released from court, and upon seeing her, he mentions that she only found him because the bodies have all disappeared. But despite knowing where they went, it was already too late. Nora asks him about the coffin, to which he replies that it hosted a powereful creature who intended to destroy the world. Abraham again suggests that to prevent any more upcoming disasters, they need to find the missing bodies and destroy them alongside any person they have come into contact with. F's son, Zach, ends up choosing to live with his mother, Kelly, instead of F, causing him to lose all hope of happiness. Meanwhile, the 4 survivors continue to experience their transformation, with programmer Ansel's eyes turning red, and he trying to control his craving for blood by drinking blood from a raw steak, which gets discovered by his wife, while musician Bolivar had his skin turned pale, his eyes turning red, and his hair as well as his genitals falling off. F visits the house of the father but finds nobody except for hair in the bathroom. He gets followed by the young girl, who is now turned into a vampire from the dark, but gets an emergency call about Redfern. Upon visiting Redfern, F finds his condition deteriorating, with his eyes turning red and his body filled with worms. Believing the worms need to be removed to save his life, F decides to put him in surgery, but Redfern goes missing right before it. Jim eventually finds Redfern in the kitchen and notices him drinking from a blood bag, having completed his transition into a vampire. Jim gets attacked by Redfern, who holds him against a wall and takes out his throat stinger, but an incoming Nora ends up distracting him. Even after trying, Jim and Nora fail to stop Redfern, who finally gets subdued by F after hitting him in the head with a fire extinguisher. Redfern manages to wake up and grab Nora's leg, leading to F bashing his head open with the fire extinguisher. Following the death of Redfern, F becomes a wanted criminal and gets on the run. He ends up teaming up with Abraham and Nora in their search for the Master, the ancient vampire, or Strigoi, who is responsible for spreading the Strigoi plague with the help of worm-like creatures. The 3 are also joined by Vasily Fett, a rat exterminator with the strength to fight off vampires, Dutch Velders, who was hired by Eldritch to turn down the internet in order to not allow the news of the vampire outbreak to reach any other part of the world, but ends up turning against his company, and Quinlan, a half-vampire with the ability to walk under the sun who is on his mission to end the Master. The team starts a search for the Master, but ends up failing numerous times, with the Master successfully escaping into different bodies and taking F's son Zach under his wing as a pawn against F's continuous efforts to defeat him. The continuous winning of the Master and a mistake of Zach's end up causing a nuclear explosion that leads to the Earth falling into a never-ending twilight. This condition makes the environment suitable for vampires to roam in the open and take control of the cities, leading to humans being under the mercy of vampires. The struggle is not without losses, as the team loses Nora when she gets infected by the worms while trying to protect Zach and many more of their supporters. The 8th episode of Season 4 finds F and Dutch returning to their new hideout only to find Abraham to have been infected by the worms and dying after defeating his longtime enemy vampire Thomas. Another vampire, Alfonso Cream, a gang leader, died at the scene in the hands of Gus, while Alfonso had killed Alex Green, the leader of an anti-Strigoi group who was looking after Abraham. Fett, Quinlan, and Roman steal a boat and disguise themselves as employees to help them sneak in a nuclear bomb that can help kill the Master inside Manhattan and then hide it at the Federal Reserve Bank. Leaving Roman in charge of guarding the bomb, Fett and Quinlan also reach the hideout in hopes of sharing good news, but instead find Abraham dying. Abraham shares that instead of a bomb, the team can defeat the Master by separating him from his human helpers, which will weaken his position and allow the team to finally defeat him, though it may cost them their lives. Abraham requests to be killed, leading to Quinlan presenting him with a knighthood for his long battle and then beheading him. Following Abraham's burial, the team discusses their plan to move ahead, with F trying to understand Abraham's final words. Quinlan wants to stick to their original plan of using the nuclear bomb, but F believes there could be another way to defeat the Master without widespread destruction. The Dutch recommend they first locate the Master before trying to kill him, leading them to break into the blood factory dressed up as captives, and then as employees with the help of Quinlan due to his vampire appearance. Sanjay Desai, a human helper of the Master, tries to threaten them by holding 3 pregnant women captive, but due to the courage of one of the guards, the team ends up successfully freeing the captives. They also capture Sanjay, bringing him to Gus's warehouse to question him about the Master's location. The Master assigns Zach an important task, following which F gets to know a boy who has been looking for him near the Harlem River Market and ends up finding Zach there. In the penultimate episode, F brought Gus with him to the old armory, but blindfolded him during the move, believing he could betray F. Fett and Dutch's interrogation of Sanjay fails, as he believes them to be liars, until Quinlan threatens him with the prospect of draining his wife of all her blood, leading to Sanjay revealing that the Master is in the Empire State Building, and even drawing them a floor plan. F doubts Zach's intentions when Zach recalls his time with the Master Master and portrays himself as a victim, but he tries to gain the team's trust by revealing that the Master had set him free so that he could find the location of the nuclear bomb, and also provided them with a floor plan of the Master's residence that matched Sanjay's drawing. Gus joins Roman to help him guard the bomb with his helpers, and also gathers silver bricks from the bank that can be used to make weapons to defeat the Strigoi. When F took Zack to the rooftop to have a chat, Zack apologized for his past actions of not believing his father. F gave him a can of soda, which Zack cut his finger with, and left a drop of blood on the rooftop as a way for the team to be found by the Master, confirming F's doubts. Upon being confronted by F, Zack initially declines, but eventually confesses about working with the Master and makes an offer to spare F's life in exchange for revealing the location of the bomb. F comes close to shooting Zack with his gun, but instead leaves him behind so that the team can escape before the Strigoi can attack and join Gus and Roman at the Federal Bank. The Master berates Zack for his failure and also kills Sanjay and his wife after finding out about their betrayal of Zack. Believing the location to be a trap, the team arrives with a nuclear bomb outside the Empire State Building to make the most of their only chance to confront the Master. Quinlan enters the building with the detonator, but he finds the Master not to be there. Quinlan gets surrounded by Strigoi, and as he signals for the others to escape too, their escape route also gets blocked by a horde of incoming Strigoi. In the final episode of the series, Gus and Roman fight the horde along with other people as F, Fett, and Dutch manage to escape with the nuclear weapon. The Master, in a desperate attempt to find the group, starts a citywide search by the Strigoi, going from door to door, which shocks Zack. F, Fett, and Dutch soon unite along with Quinlan at a construction site and move the nuclear bomb underground using an elevator. They try to make a plan to defeat the Master without erasing the city of New York with the bomb. Quinlan and Fett plan to trap the Master inside a deep tunnel underneath the city, following which Fett wants to detonate the bomb. F and Fett walk around the construction site, using themselves as bait to lure out the Master. The Master arrives at the site where Quinlan fights him, but while taking him underground using the main elevator, Zack also ends up going down, having been knocked out inside the main elevator. F ends up following them, with the detonator taking Fett's place in the auxiliary elevator. Quinlan gets badly injured in the fight with the Master, but manages to cause serious damage to the Master's body. Seeing Eve arrive, the Master orders Zack to kill Eve using a gun, but he is unable to do so. Instead, he shoots at the Master. Seeing Zack's betrayal, the Master tries to transfer his essence to Zack's body, but due to Eve attacking him, he ends up possessing Eve's body instead. The Master believes that he has won, but it turns out to be wrong, as Zack detonates the bomb, leading to the death of the Master as well as Zack. 5 years after this incident, the Twilight finally came to an end, and the city is rebuilding after easily destroying the Strigoi. Due to the absence of the Master, Roman, Gus, Fett, and Dutch are back to rebuilding their lives on a hopeful note. The main characters of this show: Corey Stoll portrayed Dr. Ephraim Goodweather, the main protagonist of the series. Eve is a CDC epidemiologist who is heading the investigation on the aeroplane whose passengers upon landing were found dead and got roped into the battle against the Master's plan of causing a vampire outbreak primarily in New York City. David Bradley portrayed Professor Abraham Setrakian, an elderly Holocaust survivor who later became a pawnbroker and possessed vast knowledge about the ancient species of vampires. He had been hunting vampires for the majority of his adult life. Kevin Durand portrayed Vasily Fett, a rat exterminator who uncovers the vampires lurking under the belly of New York. He becomes a key player in defeating the vampires due to his strength and survival skills. Jonathan Hyde portrayed Eldridge Palmer, an elderly but wealthy as well as influential businessman with poor health. In his drive to gain immortality, Palmer becomes involved with the vampires and their plan to take over the world. Richard Sammel portrayed Thomas Eichhorst, a local vampire follower of the Master who does most of his bidding. Thomas used to be a Nazi concentration camp officer, where he met and then formed a decades-long rivalry with Professor Abraham Setrakian. Why The Strain remains a compelling must-watch series. The Strain, throughout its 4 seasons, gives a new account of modern vampires, following the more sexy adaptations in shows like True Blood and The Vampire Diaries. This time, vampires are shown as they are feared to be, which are blood-sucking monsters that are infecting other human beings with the curse of vampirism, not just with a bite, but rather with the help of parasitic worms. Set against the backdrop of New York City, the show takes the viewers on a captivating journey of characters trying to escape and even prevent their inevitable fate of turning into bloodsuckers, while also protecting their loved ones and the city they all call home. While watching, one would be on their toes as they follow a helpless and even, to a certain extent, hopeless journey, where friends can turn into enemies in just a matter of seconds, and characters that viewers grow to love and root for end up becoming collateral in a big war. Despite being a horror series, it has quite a satisfying amount of gore, without going to extreme lengths to be edgy or even hiding certain things. Ramin Djawadi's composition of the show's theme music is terrific, along with the nuanced characters being portrayed by competent actors, which viewers would be unable to not root for. Marvelous verdict. The Strain presents a mix of vampire horror with the themes of a zombie outbreak, presenting a new kind of vampire, also known as Strigoi. Characters running against the clock as they fight an ancient evil vampire is nothing less than an epic modern retelling of a tale as old as time. The vampires are working towards a goal under the ancient master, with no chance of turning good, which places the characters at risk of going through losses beyond their imagination in their battle. The show is also not lacking in action, horror, and mystery, giving a variety of themes for the viewers to enjoy. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.